So let's talk a little bit about now getting to market and that distribution deal and what we're trying to do. I guess what I'd like to talk to is both the Orchard and WDA and talk about what an aggregator actually does.
In our case, we're a boutique agency, right? We work only in mobile. So there's no way we touch anywhere near 700 stores, much less than that. The biggest problem that we find with artists and labels that we work with is they don't have their act together in terms of metadata. And my best advice I could give to all of you out there is that if you're starting now or if you're sort of trying to relaunch yourself in this new digital world, is if you're gonna have to match your catalog with audience demographics, you're gonna have to do more and more marketing than you've ever done before. And the number one problem that we see is that people are running their labels out of shoeboxes, and it makes it extremely difficult to do any kind of digital distribution with those kind of companies because they just don't have their act together. So, and I can't tell you the number of companies we've worked with where their entire their knowledge of their digital space is whatever they happen to have uploaded to iTunes. I mean, that's their digital repository, is what they uploaded to iTunes. It makes it very, very difficult to expand beyond that.
Who should approach somebody like the Orchard or WDA, given that type of model? Like, talk about your ideal, like, at what level does somebody graduate, if you will, from using sort of that a la carte model? Or, you know, we were talking in the green room a little bit about at what point do you stop giving it away and do you try to monetize it? You know, is the step giving it away at first to create some sort of demand and buzz in the marketplace, and then you have an initial release with which you then put into the marketplace via sort of one of the postage stamp models, if you will?
You know those credit card companies out there where you have no credit and they say you can get a credit and with credit card, and what you do is you pay in advance and then they give you a credit card. That's how I feel a lot of people are going to get suckered in the music industry over this next year, because that stat that you gave, you know, about the people that sell just one album or less than 100 copies of an album, those people are just ripe for the picking for a certain type of company who basically charges them a fee and builds up. You know, you're gonna be in the business now, and, you know, it's just a few $100s or whatever it is. I mean, you multiply a few $100s times all those releases, and you got one hell of a business. And so anyway, we're not even interested in any of that in our case, especially. So I would just, you know, that's not to say that you can't pay for good quality services out there, but in our case, you know, like I said, we're working mobile, and that means we're trying to sell to people like Matt, and we just can't bluff. So there's no amount of money you could pay WDA for me to tell a lie on their behalf. And so, and there are companies like mine out there, lots of them, that you can't do that with. So you have to be a little bit, the pay to play, someone takes a risk in representing your talent because you've been paid. It's a very risky model for people in my business, because there are very few stores for which we can sell to. So credibility is, you know, it reigns king. So for us, you know, we actually have to make sure that the stuff's going to sell before we put it in the catalog.
What type of marketing relationships are there between distributors, or are you just a pipe? You know, is the job of the digital supply chain really just the core of what a distribution company does and puts everything into the right formats to cut all the different Qualcomm formats for the ringtones? Like, are you there just to do the heavy lifting of the technology, or are you there to actually help facilitate the sales process?
No, we're supposed to program. We're supposed to program to the extent that we can, and so it's our job. It's our job to present content, and then also, I mean, look, if the value that we provide to any storefront is that they didn't have to deal with all those artists directly. So I have to provide some value, and so part of the value is listening to the various labels and artists and what they tell us, and then converting that, like dumbing that down, understanding the programming model of whatever storefront I'm working with, and then presenting that in a very, very succinct way, and then make it extremely easy for that storefront to say yes. They press the button, and then it just magically flows across the line. I mean, I would say that though 80% of our effort though is in metadata management. This is becoming a software business. Distribution is becoming extremely complex. All of our R&D goes into databases and IT and infrastructure and metadata management and integrations and APIs. And I mean, it's deeply technical. It's not a bunch of guys on the phone, you know, wheeling and dealing. It's not quite like that. There's a little bit of that, you know, because we get to the finish line and we say, okay, here's what we think will sell. And we can only be wrong so often before we get booted. So, you know, there's responsibility. But at the core of a digital distribution company is extremely technical, which is why it drives me absolutely nuts when we work with people that don't have their data together.